in my side.
All right.
You're lying!
Naughty girl.
There's witches that are still alive!
Our story starts with a broken and homeless orphan named Adonis who is taken in by the strongest, hottest witch of that land. She adopts him and becomes his mom. Although things drastically change on the day that the vain and evil-tempered emperor publicly humiliates her before taking her life. Devastated, heartbroken, and seething with rage, Adonis swears to avenge his mom and eliminate the emperor and all who side with him. But let's take it all the way back to the beginning. Way back in the day God created humans. Then he made witches. He gave them a share of his power and put them in place to help guide humanity. The witches didn't play around and did their best. But humans being humans, we generally suck. And after a while, resentment and jealousy grew. We started hating our divine guidance counselors and began to hunt them for sport. Salem witch trials ring a bell? Anyway, we meet a witch named Chloe Morgan and her adopted apprentice, Adonis, who are wandering the desert, Moses style. Morgan is as confused by her 1,000-year-old map as we are. But crafty Adonis pulls out his homemade iPhone and activates his GPS. Morgan checks him about using technology as it's traceable. Hello, NSA. If the government's not tracing you, the tracking cookies will. Adonis, being a dumb child, tries to explain that he made this iPhone with summoning magic, which doesn't need radio waves or Wi-Fi, so military triangulation tech won't be able to find it. He even goes so far as to tease Morgan about her Moses map when modern magic could make things so much easier. But Morgan quickly educates silly Adonis and makes him hip to what's really good. Adonis goes super emo as he simply cannot understand why they are constantly on the run and can't settle and live their best lives. Morgan breaks it down for him. Basically, humans are jealous, selfish, entitled, corrupt beings who wish they were God's favorite like the witches. Since they aren't, they've become obsessive and have started hunting and lynching witches for fun. Sounds kind of familiar. She assures him that one day they will find a place that they can live in peace, safe and sound without a care in the world, and hopefully a school to teach Adonis some damn manners like respecting your elders. But Adonis says that Morgan is the only teacher he wants and needs. Okay, elder fetish, go off. Even Morgan teases him about wanting wrinkly ladies for fun time. Anyway, off they go deeper into the desert while Adonis gets all broody and thinks about activating his Malcolm X mode to fight the power and burn the cities down. That's when a platoon of soldiers become aware of them. Adonis wants to prove himself and fight, but Morgan says to leave it to her young grasshopper. That's when she summons her staff and activates her ice magic. Back in the Rhedia Empire, Emperor Gerda is super pissed. His border control agents have failed to capture Morgan. The innocent messenger gets a beat down for bearing bad news, and the Emperor demands that Chloe Morgan be captured and brought to him no matter the cost. Back to our desert dwellers. Morgan has pimp-slapped the agents and lets Adonis know it's time to hit the road jack. Adonis is aggravated because Chloe won't let him unleash his dragon. His powers. Somehow this young grasshopper thought he can kick butts and take names easy peasy. To show us what he's working with, he summons an enormous sword. Chloe tells him that he's just a little boy and to slow his roll. Adonis has some underlying issues and thinks that the actual reason Chloe won't let him go buck wild is because their enemies are humans like him. He reassures her that he doesn't even like sucky humans and would have no problem eliminating them all. All he wants is to keep her safe. Little homie starts crying and is an emotional wreck. Chloe Morgan rushes to hug him and tell him she loves him too when suddenly one of the soldiers' devices activates and transmits their location. The earth starts quaking. They levitate and then they're surrounded by a shining green light. Frightened and flabbergasted, they hold hands and are teleported away. At the Empire, the Emperor gives a national speech. He speaks of how witches used to protect and guide them, be their saviors. But weak little humans have secretly always feared powerful women. Since they've become technologically superior, they seem to think they have no need for magic or overpowered witches. The silly emperor claims that having smartphones have made them smart too. Okay, little buddy, He demands that all witches be eliminated and that useless humans become the grand rulers of the world. The crowd is hyped as hell and cheer in agreement. That's when Morgan and Adonis are teleported right in front of the jeering crowd and the vile emperor. Greatly outnumbered, Adonis attempts to give Morgan a chance to run for the hills, but he is caught and subdued. Enraged, Morgan threatens to turn things back to the Ice Age if they don't let her boy go, but the emperor only sneers. She starts to cast a super spell, but then her magical ice crystals fall to the ground and her powers fails due to something blocking it. The crowd is ecstatic and little Adonis tries to activate his abilities to no avail. The vile emperor declares the age of witches over and assaults Chloe by ripping her shirt and freeing the Tatiess before pimp slapping her. The perverted crowd enjoys every second of her disgrace. Adonis breaks loose and attempts to help her, but they catch him easily. That's when the emperor orders his agents to eliminate Adonis. Frightened and desperate, Morgan begs the emperor to spare Adonis, lying that she kidnapped him and raised him as her slave. She offers herself in exchange and Adonis is dumbstruck, knowing she's lying. He tries to use his magic, but again it's to no avail. The sadistic emperor pulls his weapon. Morgan looks to Adonis and they share a sweet moment, reminiscing on their past. Just as she says "I love you," a shot rings out. Headshot followed by firing squad. It's an excessive execution and Adonis watches it all unfold. Trauma. The cherry on the cake is when the executioner beheads her, followed by the emperor showing her head to the overexcited crowd. Enraged and grief-stricken, Adonis declares to destroy them all and avenge his mama. 10 years have passed, and now we find ourselves in Aridia prison, where two women throw down over a piece of bread. A pretty pink-haired girl named Daroka offers the fighters her piece to keep the peace. Without thanks, the ungrateful women grab it. Daroka's friend Anna worries as it's her second day without food. Daroka says it's all good and not to worry. Anna is shocked by her positive attitude even in this dire situation. She wonders why they are still at war so many years after wiping out the witches and with so many technological advancements. Humans, bro. We suck. Anna and Daroka are war prisoners. But ever cheerful, Daroka tries to lighten the mood with a puppet show made from scraps. That's when the guards show up and demand prisoner number 218 come to the front. The imprisoned know that when you're called you never return. It's Anna's number, but Daroka bravely takes her place. Anna weeps for her friend who sacrificed herself for her. Daroka is brought before the warden, who admits that the prisoners are being trafficked. The freaky-looking warden takes a selfie with Daroka, claiming he'll get a high price for her. That's when quick-thinking Daroka bites his finger and runs like her life depends on it. She steals the warden's phone, attempting to unlock the cells, but is informed that the phone operates on voice activation only, specifically the warden's flamboyant voice. Hilariously imitating his voice, she manages to open all the cells. Daroka lets everyone know it's time to get the heck out of Dodge. Chaos ensues. Daroka is running for her life and somehow ends up in a hidden underground room. That's when some guards catch up with her and give her a few unwelcome kicks. Unfortunately for the guards, every cell has been opened, including this hidden one. They start to panic. The insane enclosure is opened and it reveals a person. He breaks free and we see Adonis, blazing with anger and ready to put a world of hurt down. As expected, the guards go full pansy. Adonis easily eliminates the closest one. He knives the second, and while the third tries to shoot, he is disarmed and gets a quick gut shot. Then he walks over to a frightened Daroka and fires at her handcuffs, freeing her before walking away. Homie is on a rampage. Meanwhile, it's a full-on riot. The National Security Bureau, or NSB Senior Director Yamato, is fully briefed and orders his subordinate Eekhout to head into the field and reclaim control. Eekhout is happy to oblige. Yamato's sister, another pink-haired cutie, is named Yuki and she is not impressed by Eekhout's nonchalant attitude. She's a spicy one who's all about duty and order. But Yamato reminds her that Eekhout is an executive just like her. So chill out, baby girl. As Eekhout heads to the prison, we get a peep show. Browski is hiding a fully armored body. Full Metal Alchemist, let's go. At the prison, the flamboyant warden is petrified when he realizes that Adonis is free. He is stunned that Daroka had managed to open the hidden cell, as his mobile did not have the clearance for that. Plus, Adonis managed to get his hands on his magic quill too, sitting pretty and high up overlooking the city. Adonis activates his magic and it works. He summons an enormous bullet that he fires straight into a building. Bro is ready to burn down the world. And who can blame him? Eekhout is at the prison gunning down every person he sees, including the warden and the remaining guards. Talk about a clean-up crew. Just then he gets notified about the giant bullet attack and heads over to investigate. Luckily, Daroka has made it out alive, but when she sees the giant bullet stuck in the building, guilt washes over her and she blames herself for his actions. Girl, what? How are you to blame, silly goose? We spot Adonis, barefoot, walking through the city. He misses his master teacher and knows she wouldn't want him out there hurting people. But Adonis is in full-on vengeance mode and obviously still deeply traumatized, so he summons a robot titan and gets to destroying everything he sees. The military gets a call, but they refuse to believe the caller. Then a driver crashes into their office, completely shell-shocked. He mumbles about a giant, and the officer thinks bro's been smoking that good stuff until he too takes a peek outside and sees what's really good. The NSB leaders Yamato and Yuki immediately take control and send ground and air support, declaring a state of emergency. Upon confirmation that Adonis is causing the ruckus, Yamato instructs his men to activate the magic suppressor, but his soldiers are unsure if it will still be functional after 10 years underground. Yuki is sent to confirm its usability. On the ground, chaos erupts and tanks are deployed. They fire at Adonis, but all their attacks are deflected. He uses his titan to strike buildings and use the debris to smash tanks and humans and buildings alike. The stupid emperor made the biggest mistake by isolating Adonis to the extreme extent that he did. This gave Adonis ample time to mentally prepare, study, and understand the magic he would need to reenact his revenge. After years of preparation, Adonis is ready to slaughter a nation. He summons 2 gigantic automatic weapons and fires away, turning people into pasta sauce. An eye for an eye, and still Adonis does not yet feel fulfilled. He starts crying, heartbroken and overjoyed. At the same time, is he a Gemini? From a distance, Eekhout relays Adonis' location. He is chilling on the palm of his titan. NSB immediately sends in several fighter jets who bomb away. They eliminate their own citizens in the crossfire. The damage is extensive and buildings come crashing down. Daroka manages to save a child at just the last minute. She still blames herself and promises to stop Adonis. Mind your business, lady. In a change of scenery, we are at the palace. The vile punk of an emperor is bedridden and on his last legs. Ha, ha, good. As he coughs his lungs up, he can't help but wonder if God has cursed him. Yet he feels no regrets for ending the witches, somehow convincing himself that their elimination was necessary for scientific evolution. We see flashes of Adonis' bum rushing the soldiers on the ground. He overpowers them, and it's a thing of beauty. As Adonis is about to choke the last punk soldier out, Daroka runs forward begging for his life. She has the audacity to tell Adonis that he's done more than enough and no more innocents should be excommunicated. Girl, what? This understandably angers Adonis, and he pops that soldier's head like it's an overripe pimple. At first he wanted to spare her, but thanks to her cheeky attitude, Adonis decides all humans need to be eliminated. Daroka has the nerve to say that Chloe Morgan wouldn't accept his behavior. Adonis flips and starts verbally insulting her, demanding she never mention Chloe's name again. He goes so far as to suspect that she's been sent by Rydia to distract him until they can gather more forces. This is when Daroka drops a bombshell. She's a witch too. Adonis doesn't believe her and starts choking her out, but she insists some of them escaped. Adonis demands to know where they were when they needed help. She begs forgiveness and says they were just desperate to survive, but now they have the ability to bring Chloe back. Revive her. Adonis still does not believe her. Then Daroka admits that she secretly entered Rydia to rescue Adonis. Apparently his memories are an essential part of the resurrection process. Adonis is too far gone and is just about to hack her head off. Daroka accepts her fate, and that's when Adonis gets a vision of Chloe moments before she passed and starts crying. He is a wreck. Daroka reaches out to him and promises that she'll be there for him. He is not alone in this. And that's when Eekhout blasts her from up high with his sniper weapon. Eekhout is a little disappointed as he wanted to take them both out, but oh well. Next thing we know, we see a young Daroka watching as soldiers burn down her village while hunting down witches. Mia, an older witch, warns Daroka to run for her life and head to their upper witch, Madame Ophelia. Daroka wants to fight back as they are innocent, but Mia points out a machine that blocks their abilities. Mia tells Daroka to follow the revelation star and run as fast as her little legs can carry her. She also gives her the little scrap puppet as motivation. As Daroka runs, the brutal soldiers surround Mia. Flashback done, we are back in the now. Daroka is all kinds of messed up. Adonis screams at her to live as he needs to know how to bring Chloe back. As Daroka coughs up some pasta sauce and tries to relay important information, soldiers empty their clip and Daroka goes night-night. The soldiers have him surrounded and fire away thinking it's all over. But Adonis just summons a barrier and returns the bullets from whence they came. Eekhout thinks he can use the same sniper trick again, but Adonis is onto him and stops the bullet, enlarges it tenfold and returns it to sender with a kiss. Bye-bye Eekhout. Back at the suppression machine, Yuki demands that Director, Theta, activate it immediately. Sucks for them, but Theta says heck no. Yuki demands to know why not. So Theta calls Yamato and informs him that the machine is too dangerous. Apparently it emits particles that make humans start red, foaming all over the place. Every single soldier that took part in the witch hunts, their insides turn to pasta sauce. Theta also reminds Yamato that without witches, climate change has become a major issue and the atmosphere is non-existent, making the emissions from the machine even more threatening. We also learn why the vile emperor is kicking the bucket. His machine is the cause of his incurable disease. Good riddance. Adonis continues his rampage and the humans know they are on the losing side. Theta orders Yuki to get the heck out, but Yuki is a stubborn fool. She rushes to activate the machine. Theta chases after her and orders everyone to evacuate. Yuki doesn't care about the consequences and like a typical hot-headed military extremist, she pushes the activate button. And Adonis's magic immediately stops and he drops his quill. Damn! Theta is still on the line with Yamato, and with a pasta sauce-covered mouth and clothing she lets him know that she switched off the machine. Yamato asks about Yuki, but Theta reminds him of his duty. Stop Adonis and save the Empire. Okay, Star Wars. Yamato orders his men to attack immediately. Adonis rushes to pick up his fallen quill as the soldiers aim at him. Then a female soldier speeds towards him just as a building collapses between them. She activates her blade and beheads Adonis in one fell swoop. He welcomes it, happy to be free and to join Chloe. Proudly, the female brings Adonis's head to the rest of the unit. Everyone is ecstatic, believing their empire has survived this SS-level threat. Yamato tells them to calm their horses and collect his body and also save any survivors. We learn the executioner is a new recruit. But Yamato is not interested and only worries for Director Theta and his sister Yuki, while the sickly emperor makes a public announcement filled with blah-blah nonsense, proclaiming themselves proud heroes and survivors and blaming Adonis and the witches for everything, calling the citizens and the Rhedia nation the new god. Talk about a superiority complex. A young schoolgirl named Rhea watches the speech on her iPhone. Their teacher says it's okay to mourn, but don't forget that exams will continue. Harsh. A single student asks why Adonis, who's human, would choose witches. The teacher says he was probably an indoctrinated silly little goose. Class ends and Rhea is approached by another student claiming she knows what she did. But Rhea shuts her down. Next we see her at the memorial site where she gets a flashback as to what happened that day. Rhea is upset at her shitty government and guilty that she couldn't save her boyfriend from his fate of being crushed. She's also ashamed of her mixed feelings because she's attracted to Adonis. We don't blame you, girl. She has some pervy pics on her phone that unfortunately she is caught looking at by Chief Gorgeous. He tells her not to worry, that he won't snitch, but as soon as Rhea runs away he calls in and reports her for treason. Chief Gorgeous is then informed that the disaster inspection has been completed. The soldiers leave the area as investigator Charmy reports that she's analyzed Adonis's body and it's fake. Adonis awakes, screaming in pain. He is surrounded by witches who are performing emergency surgery. The witches fear that the transfer is too overwhelming for a human body. Ophelia enters the chat and uses her abilities to bring his brain back to full functionality. Adonis is suffering, and we see a flashback of what truly transpired. The female soldier who hacked his head off is Anna, Daroka's friend and fellow infiltrator. Anna informs Adonis that his extraction is their primary mission, and their end goal is to revive Chloe. Then giant white bandages wrap him up in a protective ball, and off he goes. Back in the now, Adonis falls off his sick bed, and Ophelia kneels beside him and hugs him, thanking him for all he has done in the name of witches. Adonis, ever angry, demands to know who these ladies are. Ophelia informs him that he is in the nation of witches. Adonis gets a tour. Everywhere he looks are happy-go-lucky witches living their best lives. Every witch they come across treats him kindly and with respect, knowing that he is Morgan's apprentice. Adonis is disgruntled and wonders how they all know his master. Ophelia breaks it down for him. Chloe was loved and admired and known throughout their nation for her strength and wisdom. Unfortunately, they had to exile her for taking Adonis, a human, as her apprentice. Their magic is a gift from God, a sacred responsibility not meant for humans. Acting like a typical human, Adonis is enraged and says he's done chatting. That's when Ophelia shows him his feathered quill and gives it back to him. Adonis only has one more question. Can they really bring Chloe back? Ophelia tells his ungrateful behind that witches don't lie. Comforted and finally taking a good look around him, Adonis notices the earth in the distance. What the heck? They are in a sanctuary built on the moon. Far from humanity. Ophelia breaks it down for us while showing all the gravestones of witches eliminated by human greed and stupidity. She then brings Adonis to the divine Mito tree, a tree that bears witches. The only one left, as humans burnt the rest. This tree births or regenerates witches. Adonis is filled with hope, wishing that Chloe is inside one of the bulbs. Ophelia starts to teach. Magic is nothing more than taking thoughts and giving it a tangible form. Adonis's use of magic is a great example. He writes and manifests. With his magic, he can use his memories of Chloe and seal it into any one of the witches on the tree, bringing her back to life. Ophelia lets him know to tell her when he is ready to bring Chloe back. Adonis is ecstatic, afraid, and also filled with a spark of hope. He lays under the tree deep in thought. This is when Anna approaches. She is visibly upset that Daroka was lost while saving his ungrateful, angry, entitled butt. Adonis is without sympathy and says it's not his problem and he won't thank them. Easy now, brother. Anna says he is a good-for-nothing selfish human. She wonders why they even saved him. But Adonis fires back that they don't want to help him. They just want Chloe back. This stuns Anna, but he lets her know what's really good. Before Daroka passed, she filled him in on the witch's real plan. Adonis knows that witches can survive extreme environments, so their little moon nation is nothing but a prison built to house humans. He thinks the witches are going to steal children, raise them on the moon while teaching them magic to form an army to fight against the evil human empire. As too many witches have passed in this war already, and they refuse to sacrifice more. But they need Chloe's special skill of making feathered quills to use for summoning magic for their future prisoners. This is the only reason they want her back. Anna hopelessly asks Adonis what he's going to do now that he knows what's really good. She demands that he help so that Daroka didn't give her life for nothing. Adonis says he'll help to bring his master back, but if she won't join the witches, know that they will be his enemies too, and he smiles menacingly. It's time for the resurrection ritual. Adonis does his part and transfers his memories. We see nostalgic images of Morgan and the love they shared. The ritual completes with a flashing bright light, and to everyone's surprise, Daroka pops out. We see Adonis emotionally stating his love for Chloe, and because of his deep love for her, he refuses to bring her back to a life filled with witches who want to use her gifts and humans who want to hunt her. That is why he resurrects Daroka, as a thank you for trying to save his life. As Daroka blooms, he catches her. She's super confused to be brought back, as her last memories are of her suffering on Earth. When she realizes her nudity, she jumps from his arms. Embarrassed, she begs everyone to forget what they saw. Adonis walks over and hands her a cover-up. All the witches are super pissed that Adonis broke their agreement and brought Daroka back. Ophelia demands answers. She reminds him they saved his life and risked their own to bring him there. All they wanted was Chloe in exchange. The rest of the witches chime in, saying an evil, entitled human could never be trusted and he's probably got the hots for Daroka. That's when Ophelia turns her hatred to Daroka and starts questioning her. Adonis tells them to shut their filthy mouths as this was his decision alone. Ophelia gets hyper and is about to attack Adonis when suddenly weird lights flash around them and interferes with their magic. Ophelia freaks and demands Adonis explain what the heck is happening. He claims innocence and says that he did nothing but be a prisoner sentenced to life. He shows them a bloody tracker that he's pulled from his body. Explosions occur and the very last Mito tree is engulfed in flames. It's NSB director Yamato and a squad of soldiers who surround the witches. Yamato cleverly traced Adonis and laughs that he has caught them in a trap. Adonis is unbothered and says they should be thanking him for the exclusive invite to the end of their lives. That's when another witch informs Ophelia that she'll save the Mito tree with her water magic. She makes a start, but a soldier slices half her head off and the tree keeps on burning. Ouch! Ophelia loses it and tells the rest of her witches to knuck whichever soldier bucks. Adonis and Yamato get into it, and it's going down. Yamato is quick to draw first blood, but Adonis uses summoning magic to stealthily disarm him, and he starts firing away happily. Then Daroka interrupts the festivities with a pleading look. We then spot the witches fighting back, and it's a sight to behold. Crystal and reptile and plant magic is employed to eliminate the soldiers. Ophelia too employs her flotation magic, even slowing down the trajectory of their weapons, which all miss their shot. She makes all the soldiers fly up, forms a ball, and crushes them mid-air. Pasta sauce splatters. The witches think they have the upper hand until the second squadron arrives. It's a never-ending story. The humans will keep coming and continue hunting them. A live video playback streams the witch genocide to Earth. As people watch, they are deeply stressed that so many witches survived the purge 10 years ago. Director Theta, who looks like she's about to kick the bucket any second, due to the suppression machine, is made to explain. Thera admits that during the purge humans used some tech prototypes to send witches to different locations in space. But some witches used that same technology to escape beyond human reach. The National Authority, a Mr. Dynasma, is flabbergasted that witches outsmarted them and used their tech to survive. He angrily blames Theta, but is interrupted during his Screamfest by a Russell Brand look-alike named Shirasaji, who's the head of National Intelligence. He tells Dynasma to calm his taties and to deal with the witch's plague first. We take a journey back to when Yamato was watching over a sickly Yuki. She has end-stage cancer due to being a silly female who doesn't listen to logic. Yamato stands by her medical chamber and talks about how his baby sister became the vice director of the NSB at only 14. A silly child should never have so much responsibility. Look at her now. But Yamato loves her too much to hold her accountable. He blames Theta, but most of all he blames Adonis and vows vengeance. Back at the battle, Yamato powers his armor to 500% output and gets ready to whoop, but like the Flash. Daroka backs off. Strange how when humans attack it's all good, but when Adonis fights back it's a problem. Anyway, Yamato power punches Adonis across the field. Big-eared Yamato is raging and screams race traitors must suffer. Chill bro. He draws his sword and releases some kind of anti-witch slash that spreads around him. This magical-looking tech is so overpowered it hacks all nearby witches in half. Most of the witches are turned to pasta sauce except for Adonis, who does a matrix move, and Daroka, who Anna saves just before leaving this life herself. Even Ophelia goes to the great beyond. Back on Earth, they try to get an update as the video feed is cut and it's gone radio silent. The entire moon base is drenched in pasta sauce. Daroka has gone full cry-baby mode. Only Adonis and Yamato are left standing. Yamato is quick to report that he has made a full Italian dinner, and all that's left is to chop up Adonis and add him to the mix. Adonis covers himself in magical armor, and he and Yamato get down to business in a field of marinara sauce. Adonis pounces, and with a flying jump, he avoids Yamato's slash while enchanting his fist. He fractures Yamato's sword, and the punch follows through to his chest, crushing it. But Yamato is no punk, and he grabs Adonis's fist while repairing his sword through regeneration. He starts slashing again. The few remaining witches are crestfallen, depressed and hopeless, covered in pasta sauce and crying over their lost loved ones. Ophelia, well, the upper half of her, says to never give up and never surrender. But the Mito tree is charred, so no more witches can be born or brought back. A single witch shouts that they need to support Adonis, but she gets capped from behind as more soldiers arrive to party. Yamato stabs the ground, and somehow his sword creates a marinara tornado. Their tech looks and acts like magic. So I don't understand the inferiority complex. But I digress. The force of the tornado sends Adonis flying, giving Yamato the opening he needs to skewer him. He thinks he finally has the upper hand, but Adonis simply summons an enormous sword which slices Yamato's arm, sending it flying in another direction. Luckily, his arm has tech that prevents things from getting critical. Looks nasty though, like Bubbaloo bubblegum. Adonis recognizes the revenge is Yamato's eyes when he promises to send him to the great beyond. This is when Daroka screams stop. No one can move, even the soldiers who are about to pop her. She walks towards Yamato and asks if he's the leader and what's his name. Yamato is stunned that he answers. But Daroka's love spell is highly effective. Why you only using it now, girl? Damn. Adonis laughs insanely and screams that she should put Yamato's face on a t-shirt. With clenched teeth, Yamato listens as Daroka, with a trembling voice, begs him to end this war and leave with his soldiers. She'll stop the spell if they'll stop fighting. Adonis screams she's lost her freaking mind. Yamato has eliminated so many witches, including her bestie Anna. Even Yamato agrees, laughing at her. He breaks free of her spell and starts to Ike Turner her. Witches must be annihilated. They are a cancer that must be destroyed. He screams that Adonis has hurt too many innocents to continue living. Daroka uses her abilities to stop his violent attack on her, and then kindly reminds him that he has hurt far more people than Adonis. She reminds them that they used to live in harmony and have a chance to do so again. That science is a greater threat than magic and they can coexist in peace. Yamato is hard-headed, so Daroka uses all her abilities to take him back to his youth, and we see them hugging. His puppy love vision overwhelms him and he agrees to obey her. But out of nowhere, Adonis does a Hannibal Lecter and slices Buddy's brain, turning him into a splashing bottle of Chianti. Adonis says he only has revenge left and remarks that Daroka's super abilities will definitely make destroying humanity a piece of cake. He offers her a hand and a choice. We return to Earth and see the crazed Emperor receiving a report concerning all that has occurred on the moon. But all the demented fool cares to hear is that complete annihilation has occurred. When the messenger says that it's gone radio silent, the Emperor starts screeching, "Burn it, burn them all, burn the moon," sounding like the Mad King in Game of Thrones. The Psycho Emperor demands his wife cuddle him and hold him tight. He compliments her and then starts demanding compliments from her too. The messenger, watching the insanity, realizes his king is crazy. No doubt about that big fella. The king is like an insane puppy adoringly in love with his queen, who, surprise surprise, is a witch. She cast a love spell on his evil bum. Don't know why she didn't stop him from hunting her own kind, but okay. She orders the king to jump off his castle and off he goes. The messenger is quick to understand that the queen is a witch and he calls for backup. But she quickly love spells him too and has him report a false alarm and that the king tripped and fell. She summons Shirusagi, who's been chilling behind her. She wonders if it was a mistake getting rid of that crazy old king. Shirusagi replies that their puppet was losing his usefulness. Dorothea, the queen, finally explains her reasoning. Her spell only affects men, not women. Making the other witches a threat she can't control, so they needed to be eliminated. She's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. She's the cause of the purge 10 years ago, but her goal is not world domination. All she wants is Adonis. He's the only man capable of using magic, and she wants him under her control. Dorothea kinda looks like Doroka, and interestingly, they share the same power. Anyway, Dorothea is so powerful she transcends the multiverse. Yet she's obsessed with Adonis and even has pics of a red-haired version of him. Back in the moon base, Adonis asks Doroka to help him eliminate humanity, but she of course refuses. But her spell is still in play, making the soldiers immobilized. Adonis summons pasta sauce tentacles with his quill and starts tearing the men apart. The soldiers are terrified and silly Doroka tries to interfere again. She threatens to use her love magic on him, but Adonis pops up in front of her, all in her face, and dares her to try him. He reminds her that she's not immortal. Laughing maniacally, he goes back to fighting the good fight and Red spraying the remaining soldiers. She warns him that his lust for vengeance will only cause others to lust for his elimination. It's a never-ending story, but Adonis doesn't give a damn, and who can blame him? Why is the victim always expected to be the bigger person? Adonis keeps squishing soldiers and Doroka keeps nagging. After eliminating the rest, Adonis picks up Yamato's head and uses magic to remove his face. Okay, face off. Okay, Nicolas Cage. Go off. Adonis uses Yamato's face and voice to transmit a report to Earth. He declares the battle won at a great cost and claims to be the only survivor. He asks to be teleported. But Director Theta is super suspicious and says that isn't Yamato. Adonis chucks Yamato's face after ending the call and grabs Doroka, demanding she accompany him as she'll be useful. Doroka is disgusted and pimp slaps him, saying Chloe would hate who he has become. The teleportation lights start flickering and activates around them. Ophelia's upper half is still alive, and she starts an emo monologue that she finally understands that this was Adonis's plan all along. She says God will judge him, and she apologizes to her sister witches. Blah blah blah. Just before he teleports completely, Adonis apologizes too. But Earth is onto him, and a platoon of armed forces awaits them. They start firing away, but the portal is empty. They realize the transfer coordinates were altered mid-flight and the signal is untraceable. Adonis and Doroka are standing somewhere in a crater in the desert. Adonis reads the stars to know his location. They are covered in red foam but are ready to rock and roll. We get a quick flashback and see Doroka telling Adonis that some witches survived and need help, but he was too busy changing their coordinates to care. Back in the now, he lets her know that they'll take down the Earth Empire by starting with small towns till they reach the kingdom. But first they need food, info, and medical supplies. Adonis starts walking away, but Doroka starts with her irritating nagging boo-hoo nonsense again. She demands to return to the moon. Adonis says, "Little girl, grow up." And she angrily replies that he's the child, obsessed only with revenge and hurting humans. He activates his flashback generator and shows her begging Yamato for their lives like a pathetic wimp. This embarrasses her. Adonis says he understands why the other witches didn't like her. She was constantly brown-nosing humans and picking them above her own kind. Doroka goes full emotional damage mode and says for many years she had wanted to meet Chloe's apprentice, hoping he'd be the bridge between them all. But she was wrong. Adonis says, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," and she starts lecturing him again, saying the war will never stop. How many more humans will he hurt? Adonis harshly replies that Morgan was worth more to him than every single human in existence. Every single one will pay. Doroka then has the nerve to blame Adonis for the Moon Massacre. But he points out that the Moon Massacre is the reason both of them are still alive. Doroka goes full cry-baby mode, whining and nagging about her massacred friends, yet demanding that Adonis not get justice. "Doroka, you are a nutcase. Adonis tries to walk away, but she jumps on him and cries some more, saying not to let vengeance harden his heart, that Chloe sacrificed her life for his, and not to become like those who took her from him. But revenge is what Adonis needs to make his life and Morgan's passing mean something. That's all there is to it. Doroka starts wailing again. Literally all she does is cry. It's kind of pathetic. Adonis faints, severely injured. That's when a group of bikers spot them and think they are probably escaped slaves getting freaky. Their leader, Mr. Punch, is asked what they'll do with them. A few hours or days later, Adonis awakes in a strange place, and he hates it. He digs deep to try and remember what happened. He flashbacks to Doroka waving down the bikers to help as he was too injured to move. The biker leader, Mr. Punch, pops in and freaks at the sight of Adonis's freaky red eyes. Punch loves a drink and offers Adonis some, but he refuses, thinking it's liquid sewage. Punch laughs, saying it's humanity's best invention. Adonis asks after Doroka. Punch tries to interrogate Adonis a bit, but all he cares about is Doroka's location. Punch brings Adonis outside and welcomes him to the wastelands. This piece of the desert is filled with poors, runaways, refugees, and escaped prisoners or slaves from Rhedia. All the people discarded by well-mannered society find their way there. Then Adonis hears Doroka's screaming for help and begging them to stop. Punch lets him know that very few young and pretty girls come to the wastelands, so let them have their fun. Groups of men surround her and Adonis freaks and rushes to save her. But she's only trying to ride a motorcycle and failing badly. She wanted the men to help her get off the bike, but they were just trying to teach her. Doroka sees Adonis and is so happy she crashes to the ground. Covered in alkies, she stands up and is quick to ask if he's good. She then gifts him mini versions of the two of them and apologizes for her ultra-naggy behavior the previous night. Adonis chucks the minis away. Punch screams from above that tonight will be a celebration and that Doroka is to be their sexy server. A grandpa tries to get lucky and cop a feel, but she outwits him. Adonis is not in a party mood and watches broodingly. The men joke that they must be having relationship troubles. Doroka has difficulty explaining what's really good and ends up saying they are world travelers. Everyone laughs at her, saying the wastelands is a great travel destination. Out of nowhere, everyone starts getting knocked out. Doroka is afraid he poisoned them, but he just made their alcohol a sleeping pill. Adonis starts searching the men and their belongings and finds a weapon. Immediately, Doroka suspects he'll hurt them and starts begging for their lives, saying they saved them and gave them medical care. But Adonis has no interest in hurting them, and he also decides to leave Doroka behind. Her nagging, crying, human-loving antics disgust him. He has realized they are nothing alike. Doroka says she's just blending in, not to be found out as a witch. Her laugh is her disguise. She says she is also traumatized but masking to survive. Damn, babe. Adonis walks away and says, "Don't get like me." The next day, Mr. Punch checks on Doroka, asking if her boyfriend left her behind. Doroka says he's not my man. But Punch says Adonis has bad manners, leaving so abruptly and especially leaving her behind. But Doroka still defends him. She knows he has good, deep inside. We see Adonis walking in the desert thinking of Doroka's words. Whether he wants to admit it or not, she has had an effect on him. Then he spots a dust cloud in the distance. Someone is coming after him. He fears the sedation has worn off, or maybe the Empire has traced him. Doesn't matter, because he is ready to throw down. At the wasteland, Punch casually mentions that Adonis is the witch's apprentice. The heck? Doroka is quick to deny it, but Punch knows what's good. He shares a flashback of Chloe and Adonis saving his life. Punch goes all emo and says that having someone you love so much that you'll burn down the world for them is a precious thing. He also doesn't know if revenge is wrong or not, but it's the choice that Adonis has made for his life. Punch looks at Daroka and asks what's her choice? She just doesn't want anyone else to lose their lives. So she vows to keep Adonis alive. Punch says, well, go get your man, honey. Then it becomes clear that the giant dust cloud is Daroka on a motorbike speeding to find Adonis. She catches up and asks to be his travel partner and says it's too dangerous to be alone. She blabs as she speeds off, still not knowing how to stop the bike. Back at the Rhedia Empire, a crowd has gathered for the coronation of the new king. Osgorgeous is watching over the antics from above. Down below, the spectators view a propaganda-filled video about Emperor Gerda and all his supposed achievements. They praise his stupidity and lust for eliminating others. The silly goose jumped off a castle, but no one mentions that. They lie and say his illness took him. Anyway, the crowd goes wild for the announcement of their new ruler. There's a countdown, and then Queen Dorothea pops up on stage and starts singing like a K-pop star. It's freaking weird. She activates her love magic and people the world over adore her. She gains an obsessive following. In a faraway land, a scarred man watches the performance on his smartphone. He mentions the insanity of Dorothea, a witch, becoming the queen of a capital that exterminated witches. He knows her game plan and can't believe how messy she is. While the man talks and Dorothea performs, others are being executed one by one, including Director Theta. It's a madhouse and the patients are running the show. Her performance ends and somehow shiny particles from the crowd gather together and form a crown on her head. I'm sure they'll say it's science. The crowd goes freaking crazy. Shirasagi watches her performance somewhere in the desert. He's leaking pasta sauce from his nose but nonchalantly focuses on his adoration for his queen and the task she set him. Find Adonis. We find Adonis riding the motor with Daroka on the back. He asks what her plans are since his mind is made up to slaughter whoever he wants. Daroka reminds him that not all people are evil. Look at Mr. Punch and his bikers. But Adonis won't budge. She may join him but not interfere as she usually does. She softly agrees. Next, Adonis wants to know what's up with her love magic. She admits that men fall in love and under her control easy peasy. So he asks why she never used it on him right from the start. Daroka says her gut feeling warned her not to try anything like that with him. Adonis acknowledges that she's right. They keep riding and end up in a place known as Sandland. It looks kinda deserted, but Adonis doesn't trust anything or anyone. Adonis says she should stay by the motor while he does some reconnaissance. But Daroka is a scaredy cat. Then Adonis spots a strange white bag. It's a travel gift from Mr. Punch filled with supplies, including a snowman tent in case they need some privacy. Daroka is super impressed, but Adonis has zero interest. The town is deathly quiet. There are broken windows but no bodies or pasta sauce. They enter the police station, the biggest place, in search of answers. Mice, bats, and even spiderwebs all freak Daroka out. Adonis is not laughing. On the second floor, a helpful hologram pops up. Daroka has never seen one before and thinks it's a person and tries to answer their questions. Adonis walks away while Daroka keeps apologizing to the 3D image. She catches up as they walk past prison cells. It's a traumatic trigger for the both of them. All of a sudden, Adonis hears someone singing a sad love song while playing a guitar. They head to the cell. Daroka tries to speak to the man, but he keeps singing. So she screams like a banshee. The man is scared out of his wits and asks what the heck they are doing there. Daroka kindly answers that they are just passing through. The man is suspicious. Who visits abandoned towns? Adonis is just as suspicious and asks why the man is there. He comically responds that he's a freaking prisoner. Adonis tells Daroka it's time to go. The prisoner appears to have another person with him under a sheet. Anyway, he mildly insults Adonis for wanting to leave and explains what happened to the rest of the town. Everyone left after the witch purge. They wanted technologically advanced lives now that the witches were gone. Adonis questions if there's another town nearby. The man answers that Mamuda is about 70 kilometers east. Daroka says sorry for interrupting the man's singing and chases after Adonis. She wants to help the prisoner or at least feed him. But Adonis informs her that the cell is unlocked. Silly Daroka is too obsessed with helping to see what people really need. And that old man needs to be left alone with his wife's skeleton. He's lost his mind to grief and just wants to mourn his woman. And off they head to Mamuda. They have to pass an immigration gate to enter the metropolis. Daroka is worried that Adonis's temper may get them locked up or worse. Adonis is as nonchalant as ever. She tries to distract him with tic-tac-toe, but Adonis is not interested as he's driving. This city also looks pretty run down and deserted. A woman lies on the highway. Daroka rushes towards her offering help. Adonis immediately realizes it's no woman but a psyched-up love robot. The robot does a quick scan of Daroka, says she has to give pleasure, and jumps up to attack. Adonis quickly brings it down with several shots. Soon they hear more freaky love robot noises close by. Adonis heads over to take care of them and tells Daroka to wait there. She tries to force her way, but Adonis is just about sick of her shite. He shouts, "Stay and scream if you need help." Thank God, because she was getting on my nerves. Unfortunately, Daroka spots another pile of love robots and it scares her, so she rushes after him acting like a weirdo stalker. She tries to convince herself that Adonis needs her and wouldn't desert her, but then she remembers him choking her out when they first met. Adonis spots her and is pissed, but she convinces him that they need each other, plus she has all the supplies. Adonis stares at her for a minute but eventually agrees. They head deeper into the building till the smell is overpowering and the freaky noises unmistakable. They enter a room and it's a disgusting and disturbing sight to behold. The robots are using the bodies of men who have passed on. The worst part is that the robots are self-aware and question their purposes while having to follow their despicable programming. The robots beg for release from this hellish life they are forced to live, and Adonis provides it for them. The last of them thanks him just before she shuts down. At another location in the Grand Canyon, two female special agents are speed walking towards a Redia checkpoint. They look hilarious but seem highly irritated by the border control's presence. The agents have numbers instead of names. Number 5 and number 6. They laughingly agree to attack border control and bum rush the lot of them, ending them easily. More officers show up, but the girls laugh and the next scene is bodies lying everywhere. Back to Adonis. He agrees with what Ophelia had once told him, that science shows mankind's true nature: depravity. In a time when humans have the ability to create anything, they create robots to fulfill their sick needs. Mamuda captured their living women, wives, sisters, and daughters and traded them for love robots instead. Cruel, crazy times. Adonis turns mechanic and starts taking parts from a vehicle. He tells Daroka that Mamuda trading their women ended their nation. No women meant no children, but the greedy, lust-obsessed men couldn't see past their own ding-dongs. Adonis hates humans even more. He starts assembling parts from cars and robots and creates an EMP. It will take out the last of the robots living in suffering. The EMP's shockwave travels over the robots, and one even manages a last thank you before shutting down with the rest. Unbeknownst to them, the two female agents are spying on them. Adonis is not their target, but the agents have authority to capture any assets from Rhedia. These agents are from a neighboring empire, ruled by Emperor Suzure. They figure they'll get an enormous reward for his capture, maybe a villa or a nice fat bounty, so they decide to hunt him down. Number 6 will handle Daroka while number 5 takes on Adonis. Unbeknownst to these agents, though, someone else has been observing them, the Shirasagi. When they attempt to approach Adonis, Shirasagi interrupts with a sick smile on his depraved face. At the freshly dug grave, Daroka prays for the robots, wishing she could do more. Adonis says this is all for nothing and just a coping mechanism. He reminds her that revenge is the only answer. Daroka says chill out, she doesn't want revenge. Adonis says maybe she should stay at their graves as it's a good place for all her crybaby tears. Adonis wonders why she even wants to travel with him, as it's due to his actions that all her friends and most of her coven were eliminated on the moon. She shows him the mini-me's she made and says she's doing her best not to hate him, as the witches weren't innocent either and their dastardly plans were to kidnap and use him. They make up and treat each other kindly. Adonis jokingly begs her to throw away the minis, but Daroka refuses. It's a wholesome moment, which of course gets interrupted by Shirasagi suddenly appearing. He interrupts, saying, "Quit flirting, you young lovers." Adonis immediately picks up on the threat while Daroka tries to make small talk. Shirasagi is immensely powerful and destroys their motor in the blink of an eye. While holding the heads of the female agents, Shirasagi says he's a very important person and he's come for their heads. Adonis fears no man and says "Nuck if you buck." We then discover that the chief intelligence investigator Charmy, who's watching through a drone, welcomes Adonis back to Earth and confidently says he shouldn't have underestimated humans. The Empire had traced him. Investigator Charmy is a cheeky bugger and tells Shirasagi to hurry up now. Adonis finally understands they are well and truly screwed. He thought he'd have more time. Then he spots the heads Shirasagi is toying with. He asks who they are. Shirasagi has no idea, but like anyone who gets in his way, he eliminates them. Daroka is disgusted by the disrespect that Shirasagi shows them. Shirasagi grabs her by the face, astounded by her audacity of trying to check him. But Adonis pulls her away and attempts to fight back. He starts to say something but is sucker punched in the gut. He power punches him and says, "Speak faster, little boy." Adonis starts popping off, but each shot misses. Shirasagi dodges them all, and now he kinda reminds me of the albino twins from the Matrix. His speed has Adonis questioning if Shirasagi is even human. Dude is like a cyborg. Adonis wises up and changes the way he uses his magic. He starts firing off enormous bullets again. Charmy quickly warns Shirasagi that he needs to watch out, but Shirasagi does a full Matrix bend and expertly avoids it. Now Shirasagi cheerfully rushes towards Adonis. Daroka intervenes by casting a magical aura to freeze Shirasagi. She warns him to stop or she'll have to make him stop. Adonis immediately yells that she needs to interrogate him for information, like his abilities and who else is after them. But strangely, Shirasagi starts laughing like a full-blown lunatic and confesses that not only does Daroka look like someone he knows, but also has her same ability. We get a flashback to the queen and her love spell command that made the king jump for joy. Adonis and Daroka are stunned that Shirasagi can move and laugh so freely. That's when Shirasagi tears his shirt off like Hulk Hogan and reveals a flaming pink heart, indicating he is already under someone else's control. Shirasagi's back is also revealed, and it triggers my trypophobia. He has holes all over that pop out robotic hands from his body. He calls it hummingbird, I call it nasty. Adonis agrees this human-machine synergy is getting out of hand. He warns Daroka to leave as her magic is ineffective. Then he gets a terrible flashback to the old king telling his master that a witch without magic is a useless woman. Triggers him. Adonis just wants to protect Daroka. But Daroka is a true G, and even though her magic won't work, she picks up a boulder and is ready to bust down. Adonis recognizes her determination and summons her a sword, while summoning himself up some shiny armor. The sword's blade is enchanted and can slice through almost anything. He also gives her a quick YouTube tutorial to learn some skills. Shirasagi interrupts their lovebirds moment and sets his hands on attack mode. They fight the hands one at a time. It's exhausting work, but the hands are pretty weak, so it's not very difficult. The hands keep coming though. Hundreds and hundreds of them. It's a staggering amount. Shirasagi gets cocky and shows that they are many but are not weak as Adonis first assumed. He makes a bunch fly up high and power up and come crashing down like targeted missiles. Adonis quickly activates a barrier ribbon spell. It deflects and destroys the hand missiles. He tells Daroka to stay close to him and covers them in the energy of a glowing cannonball. Shirasagi is amazed but not afraid in the least. He activates an ability called Fly Hummingbird Castle, and the hands return to their holes and function as thrusters. He is able to withstand the energy, but Adonis is no fool and promptly flies out preparing to attack. Shirasagi is shocked but quickly fires off a bunch of hands. But he's distracted by Adonis, and Daroka attacks from below, surprising Shirasagi by skewering his legs. Shirasagi says, "Nice try, but no cigar, babe. Next time aim for my head or heart." He power punches the both of them, sending them flying like tiny birds. Daroka coughs up pasta sauce. Shirasagi walks towards her arrogantly. Adonis's power ribbons wrap Shirasagi up like a mummy. Adonis begins to squeeze the life out of him. But quick-thinking Shirasagi uses a few robot hands to restrain him, and his quill drops. If Adonis stops, writing the magic will dissipate. It's a tense scene with Adonis demanding his release and Shirasagi saying, "Release me first." Daroka sees it's a tie and forces herself to stand and help Adonis. Just before she can be of help though, one of the robot hands grab her by her hair and drag her off. Adonis is stressed and does his best to break free. Unfortunately, Shirasagi just has more hands ready and waiting to pin Adonis. Shirasagi breaks free of Adonis's binds. Daroka is held prisoner by two hands and Shirasagi is free. Adonis understands that Shirasagi plans to blind Daroka. The hands prepare to harm her and Adonis screams stop. Daroka sees her fate, and it's the last thing she'll ever see. She and Adonis share a moment, and we see some flashbacks of everything they've experienced together. It's bittersweet. She thanks Adonis for everything. Shirasagi is callously cruel and says it's just like deja vu. Adonis tries to break loose, but he is stuck. Daroka gazes at him one more time and then screams painfully as the robots take her sight. Adonis is reminded of his trauma of being forced to watch Chloe's passing. Adonis's rage overwhelms him, and he breaks loose, rushing to Daroka's side. She's leaking pasta sauce crazily but claims to be okay and says not to worry, she'll catch up later. Shirasagi holds her eyeballs in his hand. He plays with them and teases Adonis and Daroka. Adonis demands her eyes back, but Shirasagi flings them up high and cracks more jokes. When no one laughs, he squishes them and says, "Fight me, boy." Adonis bum rushes him and smashes him into a wall. Adonis grabs his quill and remembers just who the heck he is. The apprentice of Chloe Morgan. Adonis uses magic to send Shirasagi's hands after him. Shirasagi just manages to dodge them and then starts looking for Adonis. Adonis has hidden himself with Daroka and lets her know he's going to stop her leaking pasta sauce. It'll hurt, but she can handle it. Then he uses the thrusters of a robot hand to seal them shut with fire. Daroka screams, then thanks him. She falls into a depression, wishing for a normal life and wondering what she did wrong to deserve so much suffering. Adonis fears she's passed on, but luckily she's just knocked out. Her emotional words trigger Adonis. He remembers that Chloe shared the same sentiments. Adonis's guilt blinds him, and he grabs his quill for his next attack. Shirasagi is still looking for Adonis. But he makes himself known by summoning his enormous titan once more. Adonis now begins his own trash talking by telling Shirasagi to bring his queen so he can pop her eyes next. Shirasagi goes flip mode squad. He sends a bunch of robot hands to attack, but Adonis calls him a silly rabbit and isn't afraid at all. He dodges them, but they destroy his titan. Shirasagi asks, "What's beef, little boy? Walk it like you talk it." Adonis armors up his arms and tries to power punch Shirasagi. Shirasagi blocks and dashes Adonis like a toy, but Adonis doesn't give up and demands Shirasagi repair Daroka's eyes. He tries to summon something else, but Shirasagi sends his quill flying. Shirasagi has discovered a weak spot. There is a delay in Adonis's magic. The few seconds before it manifests, and that's Shirasagi's time to shine. He forms a giant hand and says goodnight, Adonis. Down below, Daroka has woken up and tries to blindly find Adonis. She wonders how she'll ever find him. Then she hears a voice that sounds like him, but it's actually Shirasagi taunting her. He holds Adonis by the neck, who weakly tells her to run. Shirasagi throws his body into a building where a metal rod impales his shoulder. His robo-hands start Mike Tysoning Adonis. Daroka hears the sound of the beating and understands that Adonis is in danger. She pleads for Shirasagi to end this, but her pleas only enrage him. He cuffs her to the wall and strips her before power punching her. That's when he asks her politely to shut up. He hates that she sounds like his queen. We get a little backstory to their relationship. Shirasagi proclaims that Adonis' end has been predetermined and that their world has no need for two witches with the same abilities. Daroka attempts to use logic with Shirasagi, but he is a love-struck fool and her pleas mean nothing. Now Daroka finally understands that revenge is a necessary evil. Adonis gains consciousness and watches how Shirasagi is bashing Daroka's face into the sidewalk. Shirasagi is just about done with the two of them. Then Adonis uses big brain. He demands Daroka uses her love spell on him. Make him her obsessed puppy so that he can save the two of them. Daroka refuses, but Adonis insists. And at the very last moment she casts her spell. A glowing yellow light shines down from the heavens and envelopes Adonis. Shirasagi is stunned and tries to chime in when Adonis' power punches him to the face, sending him flying. Magical words surround Adonis. We get a flashback and see some young witches bullying a young Daroka for her male-controlling magic. They call her slutty. How rude! Even Ophelia calls her a stain on witches, indecent and obscene. The old cow deserved to be hacked in half. Poor Daroka. Back to the now, and Adonis finally understands Daroka's obsession with purity. He covers her with his jacket and tells her to let go of her issues and use him with her full capabilities. No need for holding back. He promises not to fall in love, and Daroka agrees. Daroka is crowned by magic and activates her full power. The power of her love fully heals him, restores him, and makes his magic unlimited. A magnificent power-up. Adonis is now unbeatable. Adonis creates a quill blade and slices the retreating Shirasagi midair. Now fully under Daroka's spell, he proclaims that her wish is his command. Shirasagi is filled with fear by Adonis's transformation. Bro tries to run for his life, but Adonis is like a man possessed and chases after him, catching up easily. The power throws him through several buildings. Shirasagi realizes the depth of Adonis's power, but far too late. Lovesick Adonis fractures Shirasagi's arm and leg and tears them both off. Silly Shirasagi calls a timeout, but Adonis doesn't think he's funny and counters with even more powerful spells. He whispers, "Not even your bones will remain to feed the dogs." The written magic spreads, causing the ground to crumble. A heavenly light appears, followed by snow. Adonis recounts that Chloe Morgan had used this technique to end a terrible drought. He had promised her that it would only be used for protection. Shirasagi is just about flabbergasted that Adonis keeps coming with that fire, in this case ice. Adonis casts another spell, calling it Ritual of Ruin. Shirasagi defiantly tries to defend himself, but his robo-hands just fall down, frozen. Shirasagi starts freaking out, and now he's the one begging for them to stop. How the tables turn. He screams that the magic is too powerful and Adonis will freeze along with the rest of them. Daroka confidently replies that Adonis is a fiery tamale, and as she speaks so it becomes. Shirasagi realizes Daroka is way more powerful than his punk queen. She merely suggests something and her will is done. Shirasagi tries one last-ditch attempt, but he is frozen in place by Adonis. He makes a giant casting circle and powerful winds, and an impressive blue beam shines down. Snowman Shirasagi is stuck and becoming an icicle. The drone comes flying in and tries to warn Shirasagi to run, but Adonis smashes it into 1,000 pieces. Daroka and Adonis cuddle and he releases more power into his spell, freezing the entire city and spreading the cold as far as the wastelands. Standing up high, Mr. Punch spots an ominous weather phenomenon and warns everyone to get inside. Soon it's an ice and hailstorm of epic proportions. Charmy and her team are blind without their drones and have no way of contacting Shirasagi. Their weather satellites pick up a major storm with ever-decreasing temperatures. As the storm dies down, the bikers are shocked at what awaits them outside. Mr. Punch hopes Adonis and Daroka are safe and sound. Back at the city, we see them holding each other, frozen. An angelic vision of Chloe beams down and gives Adonis a cuddle. He remembers his promise that he'd only use magic to protect his loved ones. Blind girl Daroka awakes. She's wearing specialized armor. Adonis gave his last to keep her safe and he faints soon after. She holds him tight and then hears Shirasagi's final words. He says they are exactly like the queen and another bro. His final wish is that the queen knows that he tried and gave his literal all for her, and hopes that there is a world where she and Shirasagi can be together. Poor simp. Simping till the very end. He then shatters like Wesley Snipes in Demolition Man. Adonis wakes up and promises Daroka he'll do everything to heal her eyes. Back at Rhedia, Queen Dorothea is sweating immensely and jogging through the city. The entire population adores her. Simping nation. It even makes the morning news. Must be a slow news day. Upon her return to the castle, she asks about a mysterious group known as the Crowns. They haven't responded yet, so Dorothea makes it clear that her request is non-negotiable. Now we are finally introduced to the other nations of this planet. The medical nation, the military nation, the eastern nation, and weirdest of all, the single mother nation. Rhedia is the simping nation. Dorothea says if they won't heed her, she's ready for war. Back to our blind girl. She's freezing, so Adonis covers her with his coat and apologizes. They joke and look at the extreme new Arctic landscape that he created. Daroka is sad and feels guilty about using her love spell. She wonders if her spell has affected his love for Chloe. Nonchalant, he repeats that he asked her to use it on him as Shirasagi was almost unbeatable, and without her help they'd both be goners. He asks for a closer look at her injuries, and she quickly says sorry that she looks like a fugly Karen. He tells her to stop apologizing so much, that she may be fugly, a clumsy nag and super annoying, but she's got a good kind heart. And will she share some kindness with him? Oh shite, I think big homie is falling for her. He carefully wraps her eyes with bandages and Daroka makes a move and says she loves to feel his body tight against hers. That's when he slaps her head and says your love spell didn't work. Chloe Morgan is my dream girl. Thank goodness. They move to pack up their things and clumsy Daroka almost slips and falls. Adonis catches her and says he'll hold her hand from here on out as a silly, which once told him that they should help each other, and off they walk into the distance, hand in hand. As an Easter egg, we see little Miss Yuki. She's all healed, and as she climbs out her medical chamber, she vows to hunt Adonis and avenge her brother. Then back to Adonis and Daroka. As they walk through the snow, she tells him that she finally sees the value of vengeance. And that's the end of our story. At times, it was a traumatic, hellish nightmare, and others quite wholesome and cheerful. The action started immediately, and sometimes I held my breath, hoping the humans would suffer. But I quickly realized that the witches had their own evil agenda. Like Daroka, I too see the value of vengeance, except for the fact that violence begets violence. Never ends. 'Cause Yuki is coming for Adonis now too. Anyway, I hope the queen gets her just desserts, and I wonder what she wants from the other nations. Will Adonis and Daroka use their little snowman tent? We'll have to wait for season 2. Thanks for watching and take care. This is your anime sensei signing off.